All right, welcome back. It's After Hours with Travis Gibbs, and as you can see, I have my co-host here with me.
Your handsome co-host, Gregg Henson. How are you, my man?
I'm good. I couldn't find a guest, so you're it.
Well, Daddy didn't make a call this week, did he? I got him lined up for you.
Yeah, I know.
Who do you want? Say the word.
Well, I mean, it would have been nice to find. Well, I guess you are. Do you consider yourself a Michigan insider?
On some issues, I know some things, but I don't know all.
Okay.
I know you think I do, but I don't.
The world knows what happened last night. Bryce Underwood, he gets flipped from LSU back to Michigan. Biggest recruit Michigan's ever gotten. Big deal. Very big deal.
He's only the biggest recruit because he's a quarterback. Because keep in mind, Rashawn Gary was a consensus number one, and he was the first Big Ten consensus number one ever.
Yeah.
Maybe Terrell Pryor was the first when he went to Ohio State, and then it was Rashawn. Now, Rashawn Gary was the first number one recruit overall Michigan had ever gotten. Here's the thing. Bryce Underwood is a consensus number one in 3 of the 4 recruiting services. Rivals has him number 2 behind Tavion St. Clair, the quarterback who's going to Ohio State.
Okay.
So theoretically, I think he's just a half an inch below where Gary was, but because he's a quarterback, it's a bigger impact.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? When you got a guy who is expected to do so much once he gets to campus. I mean, I watched him play, and I don't know anything about quarterbacks, and he looks good. He's a good-looking quarterback. I mean, who doesn't want to have a 6'4" drop back passer who can get out of the pocket if he has to
and run? Yeah, exactly.
But I don't think he's a willing runner. I think he runs out of necessity, kind of like the Ohio State quarterbacks, like CJ Stroud. That guy's accurate. And the thing that they brag about with Bryce Underwood is his accuracy.
Right. Well, he's a flat out athlete. I mean, it's like JJ McCarthy when he was playing at Michigan.
Right.
He's gonna sit back in the pocket, but he'll take off and run with it if he has to.
And he'll kill you with it.
Right. Exactly. Extending drives constantly.
I mean, think about the drives JJ extended as his junior year at Michigan when they won the national title. There were some big ones where he just got the first down when they needed it.
It was impossible to get that offense off the field.
Right.
And they just grind you down.
It was.
Grind you down.
That's a great point. You couldn't get him off the field.
Yeah.
Someone was always open.
Yep.
You know, but the domino effect, I think, of Underwood committing is going to be just as big.
Yeah.
Because as of last night, there's a lot of chatter now about other guys coming. He has a fellow commit to LSU named Derek Meadows. It's a 4-star receiver. They've already got 2 4-star receivers coming in. This kid could add to that. And the best part is the receivers they're getting are big. Now they got Samaj Morgan, who's 5'10", Tyler Morris, who's 6 foot tall. You got to still have some big receivers who can go up and high point the ball. And I think that's kind of what the goal should be here now.
Right.
Nathaniel, it's Owusu Boateng. He's 50-50 Michigan, Texas. Just canceled his Texas trip. 10 minutes after Bryce Underwood committed. Another 5-star defensive end named Jakeem Stewart, who is one of the few available uncommitted guys, will now be at the game against Ohio State on November 30.
Now, you're convinced this is all happening because of the Underwood flip?
Well, I think the class was good to begin with. It sits at number 9 right now.
Yeah.
And remember, Harbaugh's best class ever was 5, and that was his first year. So they get these guys. There's this kid named Bradley Gompers, who's a 4-star linebacker, and he's also been crystal ball to Michigan. Not to mention the 5-star offensive tackle who would play on the other side of the offensive line with the 5-star they got last week. It's a really interesting time for Michigan recruiting. It's off the charts. And we said all along, Travis, if they blow the money cannon, few can outbid them.
Well, and I think it's official now. Last night I saw 10, and you this morning said on the morning show $12 million for Bryce Underwood.
Yeah, and it's backloaded, it looks like, where he'll get the least amount of money up front, and the longer he stays, the more he gets. So there's incentive for him not to transfer out of Michigan.
Yeah.
Now, it's interesting because this is happening now before the schools have to start. There's a court case right now with the NCAA where the players are going to have to be paid through the universities. So this is a window in time where you can grab guys because it's the wild, wild west. And that looks like what happened. Larry Ellison from Oracle and his wife, who I guess is a bigger football fan than he is, set this up with the Michigan Collective.
Well, and I think we should mention the LSU side of things because that's where he was going to go originally. LSU has done nothing but shoot themselves in the foot all season. I mean, Brian Kelly being an a-hole on the sideline to his players. I mean, I think everybody kind of knew Brian
Yeah.
Kelly. He's a bit of an a-hole. I think that's pretty well known. But you see the spats on the sideline between him and his coaches, him and his players, and then they've lost a couple really big games in SEC play. And I mean, these recruits are dialed in every week to see what their school is doing. And
Oh,
I think
yeah.
Bryce Underwood sees the writing on the wall. Brian Kelly, he doesn't have the chops for the SEC.
He doesn't fit.
No.
He's not a good cultural fit to play down south. He's as northern as it gets.
I was talking to my father-in-law about this last week, and why didn't Brian Kelly just stay at Notre Dame? He has a
Because
job for life. You make the college football playoff once every 4 or 5 years, and maybe, just maybe by chance, you'll win 1 or 2 while you're there.
the problem he had, from what I'm told, is they won't play the NIL game. And secondly, you must meet the academic requirement at Notre Dame.
Yeah.
There's no more exceptions. When Lou Holtz was there, he was able to get the guy who won their national title, Tony Rice, in because he had 5 exceptions every year. They gave him 5 exceptions. Rice was one of them, but that was when they had Prop 48, and he wasn't allowed to play as a freshman. He had to be ineligible for as a freshman because of his grades in high school.
God, college football has been dirty forever. It's
Yeah.
it's more known now.
Well,
It's out in the open.
And the thing is Notre Dame, I think Marcus Freeman's a great coach. He's not going to ever win anything at
Right.
Notre Dame. It's too hard to win at Notre Dame because of the academic requirements. And I think you have a lot of those same problems with Michigan, especially with the transfer portal, where they don't just let these kids walk in.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think Brian Kelly should have stayed or found a northern school. He doesn't fit down there. The fake
No.
southern accents, the screaming and undressing players on the sideline, which Saban did, just not in front of everyone.
Well, you can do that when you're winning national titles. Kelly hasn't proven a damn thing.
But here's the thing about LSU. Talk about a historic poser. They act like they're special.
The big dog.
Yeah, they're
all
not.
the time.
You're not the big dog in the SEC. Before Saban, they were nothing.
Yeah.
Saban brought them to prominence, and then Orgeron got lucky with a generational quarterback.
Yeah, well, generational team. My God.
Yeah, the whole
Well,
team. You're
yeah.
right. Jamar Chase was there at the time. But what I'm saying is LSU has long been a poser down there. They're not Georgia. They're not Bama. Hell, they weren't even Florida.
Yeah.
For a while. Now they think they're special, and they're not. And when the big dogs get off the porch, LSU is still going to be sitting there because it's Alabama, it's Georgia, it's Michigan, smaller degree in the SEC, it's Tennessee, Ohio State, and we'll see if USC plays the game. The more they lose, the more likely they are to jump in. And you got Oregon.
Yeah.
Those are really your dogs right now. And yeah, it's not great for college football. I don't like it, but as I tell you, I'm glad the team I follow is doing it.
Right. Right.
Because if I were a Michigan State fan, I would be a little beaten down
Well,
like you are because it's going to be tough to win.
It's a collection of what's happened over the last 3 years, but that's not a result of college football. That's a result of their ineptitude, honestly, as an athletics department and a football program. But I think the bigger point is, I mean, if you're not one of those top 20 teams that has giant donors, well,
I don't even know if it's 20.
Yeah, you're right. You're right.
It's more like 8. Texas,
yeah,
A&M can play.
Yeah, Oklahoma probably has the dollars to play. They have the
Probably.
history.
I mean, Nebraska might be able to
Yeah.
sneak their head in there too.
Yeah.
But the Power 10 is the Power 10. There's guys with money, and then there's 10 programs with money.
The thing is now, and granted, in years past, you look at the Big Ten, schools like Illinois, Northwestern, Purdue for the most part. I guess you could loop Michigan State into this now because that's where they've fallen. All these schools that kind of are middle of the pack to the bottom, there was always an outside chance that, hey, you have a good year. Maybe you get to the Big Ten title. You see what happens.
Every now and then you pop up. Like even like Northwestern would pop up every 5-6 years.
Pat Fitzgerald, had a couple good years there.
Yep.
They played in a Big Ten title game in 2020. So, I mean, there was always the outside chance that these schools could get in. Now, It's completely off the table. It's so far off the table. There's no way. I watched Michigan State play both Ohio State and Oregon. They didn't play a half bad game against Ohio State and they lost 38-7.
Yeah.
Uh,
But that's the difference between having $20 million on the field and having what, a few million?
yes.
Spread out along the whole team.
Oregon's a completely different story. They bludgeoned Michigan State. It
Yeah.
was not close. And
They bludgeoned Michigan.
well, but that's the talent
close
gap
for a while,
and
right.
that's what you pay for.
And it was at one position. I guarantee you Michigan had a competent quarterback. That game goes down to the wire. And they also beat Washington. And I think they beat Indiana.
Yeah.
And they beat Illinois.
I think you're going to see with ratings over the next couple of years, it'll probably sustain in college football, like with the playoff and national title game and stuff. But I think long term, you're going to see the sport decline in viewership because a lot of these people that root for other schools other than the top 10, like we're talking about, everybody's going to lose interest really quickly.
Well, a lot of people are. Although, don't you think you're still going to watch whether your team's in it or not? I watch college football all day Saturday, even when Michigan's not playing.
I'm a sports fan. I'll probably follow it a little bit,
but the passion won't be the same.
Oh, God, no.
Because what fires you up is Michigan State on a Saturday.
Right.
What fires me up is Michigan on a Saturday. I mean, I'll watch Penn State against Ohio State, but I don't give a damn who wins.
Right.
I'll always cheer for whatever team to win that best helps my team. That's it.
Right.
Like this weekend, I'm cheering for Indiana.
Oh, yeah.
I just want to see Ohio State lose.
Well, yeah, I think everybody wants to see Ohio State lose.
Right.
I mean, they say any given Sunday with the NFL because it really is. You can lose any given week because the talent gap really is
Maybe
not
the
that.
Lions can.
Right. Well, maybe. The talent gap's not that big in the NFL. That's why it's any given Sunday.
It's quarterback.
The talent gap is huge in college football.
Oh,
it's massive.
It's only going to get worse.
Yeah.
It's only going to get worse. I was looking at the recruiting rankings and I'm I have a lot of interest in recruiting just from an analytics standpoint. If you look, the top 5 teams have almost all the 5-star players.
Yeah.
They're not spread out anymore. The only one who's popped in is Missouri. They have one 5-star player, and I don't even know how they got him.
Yeah.
I mean, Missouri's not a big dog.
Is it going to take one of these top 5 programs to have one of their major recruits transfer in the offseason, hit the portal and transfer for one of these big programs to get a bug in their ass? And they go, oh, well, Ole Miss over here, the same thing happened to them. We're done doing this. I think it's got to take something like that.
Why didn't it happen to Jimbo Fisher's class at A&M? They all left.
Yeah.
Walter Nolan, they're the big crown prince of that class, is now at Ole Miss. That whole class was bought. $30 million they paid. There was no return on investment. None. Zero. He got fired the next year.
Well, and you see how quickly a school with the financial resources can go in, sweep the garbage out, and lay it out like it's a brand new home listing.
And
I mean, that's what A&M did.
And pay $70 million to get rid of the coach.
Right.
Aggies got money. Texas has money. Here's the thing. I don't think you'll see Michigan do this every year. This is a sometimes quarterback.
Yeah.
Because they think he's generational. They lost out on CJ Carr. They lost out on Dante Moore. And they said, we shouldn't be losing. I mean, those are 3 huge quarterbacks in the last 3 years right under their nose. And they stood to lose all 3. I think this was a one-time deal. They'll do it again. They'll still pay. But I don't think $10 million goes to every quarterback every year.
Yeah.
I think the kid behind him, Brady Hart, will get his share. And then there's a 26 kid they're already talking to. So I don't think $10 million for every quarterback. You'll get a good NIL package. You ain't getting $10 million.
The recruiting's great. Are you sold on the coaching staff, though?
No. I think this saved Kirk Campbell's job.
I saw you retweet Sharon Moore's post last night.
Which one?
Like, that's interesting.
Which one?
About it's a great day to be a Wolverine or whatever after the announcement came for Bryce Underwood.
He's going nowhere. Kirk Campbell isn't going anywhere because I don't think this kid comes here unless he's comfortable with the OC. But they got to decide what to do about that defense. And I don't know that it's
Wink.
I don't think it's Wink. We'll find out. But anyway, it was a huge momentum change for the Michigan program.
Yeah.
Bottom line.
Speaking of momentum, I mean, it's almost like this news completely covered up. We talked about it a lot this morning. We do sports reports every hour during the show, and it felt like the Lions were always the last thing to be talked about.
Right.
And the Lions are 9-1. I think if they win on Sunday, they'll be 10-1 for the first time in franchise history. They
I
play
haven't
the
come
Colts.
to terms with it yet.
It's weird, right?
It's very weird.
It's weird, and it's something I kind of have to slap myself and go, watch intently, because you don't know when this is going to happen again. Listen, kind of quick sidetrack. As I've grown up watching sports, I've fallen into this, like, they're good. They're always going to be good. Like the Red Wings. They're always going to be good. We're always going to be the standard. The Tigers, when they went from 06 to 14, we're good. We got this. Michigan State football from 09 to 15. Oh, we're
the glory
good.
half decade.
We're good. We're good, baby. We'll always be good. Yeah, we've arrived. Once you arrive, you're good. That's all it takes.
Yeah.
No.
Things derail.
So every week, I'm like, even when they're beating the Jaguars 52-6 at home, I'm like, watch the game. Watch it. Because you don't know when this is going to happen again.
Well, the thing about the Lions is they've broken through so many of the past failures. And this team is in the process of really ridding itself of its history, which is what I think is important, because every time the wheels started to come off, it was, here we go again. And I couldn't even get into it last year because I just was waiting for the other shoe to drop, because that's how it always happened.
Well, and they had a few stinkers last year. They had a great year last year. I'm not trying to take anything away from them, but last year, compared to this year, last year's team was flawed.
The defense was just not good. And
Jared Goff would have a stinker here and there.
Yep. And he's still going to have stinkers. Every quarterback does.
But if you have a good enough team, you can make up for it.
Well, now the secondary is the best in the league. I mean, how do you go from terrible, can't stop anybody to, we can stop anybody? I mean, yeah. I don't even know what to say about Dan Campbell. I'll ask the eternal question until I find out the answer. Whose idea was Dan Campbell?
Yeah.
Somebody, I called Dan Miller last week, who does the play-by-play. I've known him for years. I said, tell me who identified him as the guy to fix a broken franchise? And he goes, that's a good question. I don't know. Got to find that out, because that guy needs to get credit for it.
And it makes me feel like an idiot, because during his first year, I was the one shouting from the rooftop halfway through the season, this guy's an idiot.
Well, he had a terrible team.
He made
dumb mistakes.
He was playing Madden on all Madden mode with a bad team in 2021.
Which, you know what?
We're gonna fake
who cares?
Right, yeah. We're gonna fake a punt when we're down by 30. It doesn't matter. No,
he's a meathead, and I love meatheads, but meatheads don't always win.
I can't stand gatekeeping as a fan. Like, oh, if you weren't no, listen, if you were still supporting him at times in 2021, you're an idiot. Sorry. If you were supporting him when they started 1-6 in 2022, you're an idiot.
Yeah.
I was at the Miami Dolphins game in 2022. Fans were chanting "Fire Campbell" at the game.
Already?
Oh, they blew a 17-point lead in the game and lost at home to Miami.
That was early in the year.
Early in the year. They started 1-6, but then they got hot. And I mean, ever since then, things have been different.
I went through Tommy Hudspeth, Monty Clark, Wayne Fonts, Bobby Ross, Gary Moeller, Marty Mornhinweg, Mariucci, Marinelli, Schwartz, all these idiots. And don't get it twisted. Bobby Ross went to a Super Bowl.
Yeah.
And still
couldn't win here.
Couldn't win.
Yeah.
Could not win here. Schwartz has been great everywhere he's been as a defensive coordinator. Could not win here.
Yeah.
I mean, it was a mess, and it has been a mess for years. But I think what it took was to get at least the daughter in there to kind of, she had to clear it out.
Yeah.
Because there was too much baggage, too many remnants of the past. I just want to know who identified Dan Campbell, because he was hired before the GM.
I think if you look at a front office and then look at a coaching staff, they're usually pretty similar. Like you have the alpha head coach. You typically have an alpha owner, like a Jerry Jones.
But the Lions don't.
Right. No. I think if you look at their front office, what Sheila's done, she's put very good people around her.
I wonder if Spielman is the guy.
And then you look at Campbell. He's put great minds around him on that coaching staff. Aaron Glenn, he's going to be a head coach next year.
Everyone wanted him fired 2 years ago.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. Aaron Glenn, Ben Johnson, Dave Phipp, their special teams coordinator, he's fantastic.
They've been great.
And I think they kind of reflect each other, that front office and the coaching staff. I think Sheila's just done a good job at, like you mentioned, Spielman. I think Spielman has been probably one of the most underrated hires for that franchise since their existence.
Just can't prove it.
Right. Not yet.
I
Not
can't
yet.
prove it yet.
Yeah.
But
yeah.
yeah, it's fun to watch. I can't believe what I'm seeing, but I sure like it.
Oh, dude.
Because the last time they went to the playoffs, I waited outside at the Silverdome to buy tickets.
Yeah.
I was 25 years old, 24 years old, and it was amazing.
I'm getting the feeling, though, as this season goes along, they got to cash in this year. Because
you don't want to hear what I think is going to happen. I think we get one more ball kick before the Super Bowl win. I think they get there and lose. I don't know how. I don't know why. But I look back through Detroit history, and every team had a kick in the schnuts before they finally won.
Yeah.
Red Wings lost the final to New Jersey 4-0 when they were heavy favorites. And then Sergei scored a goal like late in the game 4 loss and celebrated, and people beat him to death for that. And then the Tigers in 68, in 1967, they burned to the ground in the last week of the season and blew it. 1983, they blew it late and did not get into the playoff. The Pistons had to go through the Celtics, who kicked them in the nuts.
Your Michigan Wolverines.
Michigan in every sport, you know.
I texted you this and I was like, don't you say a thing about it, because I thought about it at the time, and I still think you guys are dirty cheaters.
No,
but
no cheating.
I think there's a very
pure as the clean as the driven snow.
I think there's a really strong comparison between this Lions team and what Michigan did over the last 3 years, because it took them to lose a heartbreaker.
Yep.
Well, they lost to a team that was head and shoulders better than them in the playoffs the first time. Georgia. And the second time, it was a heartbreaker against TCU. They should have beat that team.
They should have. You don't fumble at the 1 yard line. But then again, it shouldn't have been on the 1 yard line.
But then you look at 2023. They were head and shoulders better than everybody they played.
And no one knew it because they didn't play anybody to the last 5 games of the year.
Right?
Remember, they rolled right. But then they won the gauntlet. They beat Ohio State. They beat Penn State.
Yep.
They beat Bama. And then they beat Washington.
Yeah.
So, yeah, you got to go through a lot of heartbreak. I feel like they're going to get to the Super Bowl this year. We're going to all be going nuts, and then something's going to happen.
Yeah.
Goff hurts his finger the week before the game or something.
It's crazy to think that they're still this good without Hutchinson.
Wait till next year if they sign Za'Darius.
Oh, I think if they don't win it this year, they probably keep him around and run it back with that same group.
Well, because they'll be better.
Yeah.
And then draft, a Decker replacement going forward. They're in a good position right now.
They are. It's just my thinking behind this is you got to do it this year because you're going to lose the coaching staff. And granted, Campbell's a good mind. I mean, if he put these people around him to begin with,
he'll find more.
He will, but it just feels like this is it.
And if he's not learning from Ben Johnson now, then he's stupid.
Yeah.
Because he should be watching. He's got tape on what Ben does, and they've talked philosophy. They've game planned. He should know what's going on. The next guy should already be on the staff, to be honest with you.
Probably is.
So I don't know if he is or not, though.
Yeah. Anyway. Well,
all right. Cool. That was on our emergency podcast today.
Emergency podcast. This was fun, Henson. We should do it again.
Nah.
All right. Until next week. It's After Hours with Travis Gibbs.